Frank, how are you?
I'm fine, Dan. How are you, young man?
I'm very good. I've just realised I should be sitting a bit closer, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, they're already talking about me, Frank, don't worry. Yeah. I haven't spoken to you since started off on a good one. We're going to use this in the bloopers. Frank Warren dissembles into laughter, a poor interviewer. So this is the first time I've had a chance to speak to you since Usyk AJ 2 on Saturday night. I saw the interview you did yesterday with Umar from IFL. You said you had it 8-4 in favour of Usyk. I could have made a case for making it even wider. What did you make of the performance of AJ in general, particularly compared to the first fight?
I was trying to be a bit diplomatic in saying it's 8-4. You know, I did feel. I do. You know, I kick a man when he's down. But I mean, But having said that, I did. Listen, that was the worst case 8-4. I was talking about how that judge scored it, which was outrageous. I mean, it's just disgusting. What I think of his performance, I think he'd done as best as he can. You can only do your best. I don't think he'd done his best in the first fight, but he tried. But it's just his best. Unfortunately, it was not good enough for Usyk. Usyk's got his number. He took his best shots. And he totally outboxed him and threw more punches connected. And that's how he won the fight. And at one stage, he had him in trouble again.
Another thing you took issue with in the fight from yesterday's interview was that AJ's corner seemed to be giving him kind of false sense of security, reassurance that he was winning the fight when for most impartial observers, he wasn't. How much of an impact do you think that had on his performance? And it kind of calls into question, could he ever beat Usyk?
I think Usyk's got his number, and I think Usyk would beat him 99 times out of 100. That's my opinion. The corner, I don't know why that's a couple of fights now they've told him that he was in front, different cornermen. Maybe he needs to hear that. Maybe when he goes back to the corner, if you're saying you're losing, it's better. I don't know, maybe mentally he can't handle that. So they tell him that he's doing really well. I don't know. I mean, it's not something personally I would agree with. I mean, I think you've got to say how it is. And from me, the fighter's behind, you tell them they're behind. You've got it to do. You've got to catch up. And it was quite strange. I didn't get that. And as you say, most impartial people thought that he was behind. And the fact was he was behind.
When you look at how clearly he was beaten the first time around by Usyk, it was a demoralising defeat. It wasn't like a one big shot like against Andy Ruiz. He was clearly beaten in all facets of the game. Would you, if you were his promoter, have advised him to go straight back in for an immediate rematch? Or would you have tried to put in maybe a few confidence builders, southpaw experience in the meantime?
Look, that's a good point. I mean, but, even if you had given him a couple of fights, and maybe he did need to come in as a winner, if you'd have done that, would he have beaten him? I don't think he would. People talk about AJ like he's a novice learning. He's 32, 33 years of age now. He's been a pro for, 10 years or whatever it is. He's been a world champion for 6 years. He's had how many world title fights now? Probably about 10 or 12, I'm not sure, whatever it is. So he's a seasoned pro. So, for me, he should be able to handle it. It's a top. He's at the, he's fighting at the top level, and he obviously does struggle with people who've got good hand speed. He struggled with Ruiz in the first fight, who not only had good hand speed, he also had good footwork. The same as at the first fight. The second fight, he couldn't even lift his feet off the floor. But it was the same with Usyk. People who are fleet of foot or have good footwork, he struggles with. He can't handle speed, in my opinion. And I just feel that even if he had a couple of warm-up fights, it would have been the same decision. And maybe it even been worse because I think Usyk by then made him even more comfortable at heavyweight, having come up as he's done from cruiserweight. He may have settled down even more as a heavyweight.
I spoke to Will Harvey from 258 Management yesterday. It seems all indications from the AJ team is to fight on. Plenty more big fights out there for him is the kind of company tune at the moment. Do you think that's the right call? Or is there a case for him calling it a day? Like, he's obviously made as much money as he needs for the rest of his life.
Well, he's obviously financially secure from boxing, and that's brilliant from his endeavours and being in the right place at the right time. He's done that. He didn't. The end of the fight, he didn't seem to take it. Obviously, he never took it well. He needs some time out, and maybe he want to carry on fighting. They've said that belts mean nothing. They don't need to fight for belts. So I don't know what he does fight for. But whatever he does to get himself into a position to fight to get involved in a big fight again, he's going to have to fight to get into contention. If he goes and bowls over a couple of, journeyman type of fighters, I don't think that's going to do him any good. He'll need confidence builders, but they're going to have to be careful who they pick. Because if I put a fighter in with him now, especially if the guy's got fast hands and moves, if I was him, I would avoid them. He needs guys that are predictable, that walk forward, come on to him. He doesn't want guys who can slip and slide, and as I say, good hand speed and can get out of the way. I mean, I would say this, but can you imagine how it would have been with Tyson? The bigger guy and the hand speed he's got and the boxing brain he's got. I don't think he would have laid a glove on Tyson. In fact, I thought it would have been a similar fight to as it was with Dillian Whyte had he fought him.
AJ signed a lengthy deal with DAZN just before this fight was announced, and obviously this one ended up on Sky Sports box office. How much of a blow is this to DAZN and their business, particularly in the UK, that AJ's had a second consecutive defeat before joining them?
Well, he's lost 3 of his last 5, hasn't he? And isn't I don't know what that deal is. I can't think they would be naive enough to sign a huge deal based on the fact he comes out as a loser. I'm sure there must have been a caveat in there that he has to win the fight and he'll get X, or if he doesn't, he'll get Y. That's what you would think. And is he going to fight on and are the fights that he does get involved with, are they going to be, big fights for DAZN? I don't know. I don't really know. There's some good domestic fights, which are world title, world level fights for him here. There's Joe Joyce. There's Daniel Dubois. There's some really good fights there to be made, which I think the public would buy into. And I'd make both of them favourite. Now,
but would those fights be on DAZN?
Well, they wouldn't, would they? I mean, he's the B side of the card now. He's not the A side anymore. He's the B side. I mean, he's the guy who's lost 3 of his last 5 fights.
How much of a blow is it also to Matchroom? Because the rise of AJ since the Olympics has been quite closely linked with the rise of Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. How much of their UK business is reliant on AJ, I guess is the question.
I think a lot of their business is has been reliant on AJ. When you look at, they were forever boasting about, their accounts and so forth. But at that time, they was in a good position because AJ, as you say, won the Olympics. They had the marketing machine of Sky behind them, which I know better than anybody because we helped develop that machine from day one. So I know what the value of that is. They had that. He no longer has that, and to all intents and purposes, at the top level, he's out of the heavyweight business. Or Matchroom are out of the heavyweight business. They haven't got a heavyweight that's that you would say is top notch at the moment. They just don't have one. And DAZN, I don't know what business they do. I have no idea whether they got big subscription based or not. You hear all these different stories. All you can do using the analogy of Matchroom is that their accounts are being dreadful. I think it's down as being the worst startup business, British startup business of all time.
Is that Matchroom or DAZN?
Sorry, DAZN. It's the biggest losses. But they've got a benefactor and a shareholder in Salem Blavnovic who obviously believes in this and keeps throwing money at it. I think they're behind something like £5 or £6 billion. It's huge money, and they've done that basing their business a lot on boxing and the judgment of Matchroom. That's what they've done. So that I'm only an outsider looking in, but I'm just saying using what's normally thrown up every time by Matchroom because it all gets to the bottom line with them. The bottom line is that DAZN haven't done well, and I see they're doing other things now, and they're obviously doing them for a reason.
You said to Umar that you spoke to Tyson Fury both before, during, and after the Usyk AJ rematch. What generally was his reaction to the fight?
I mean, he said he'd beaten both of them on the same night, and that's Tyson. I'm just saying how he's, what he said, and he probably would be, but he said, both of these he would beat them on the same night, and he went on, and said, well, look, Tyson, just park everything up at the moment. One thing about Tyson is that he is a boxing nut. He's a boxing historian. He knows boxing. He can read fighters. He can read a fight. He's no dummy. He's been brought up in it and he understands it. And his opinion is, and I go with his opinion, that he would have beaten both of them. I'm not saying on the same night, but he would have beaten both of them based upon both of their performances. He certainly would have beaten AJ, and I think he's definitely got the beating of Usyk. It's a good fight, but I think I've got to back Tyson all day long against him.
And you said that you expect Usyk Tyson will be made, but the sticking point or the biggest challenge could be the location. Just explain to people out there why that would be, why that might be difficult.
Well, Tyson this morning went on TalkSport. He said it's got to be done by the 1st of September, and he wants 500 million. So that's a challenge, and so we're working at but the bottom line of all this is that it can't take this fight needs to take place this year, by the end of this year. Otherwise, these guys are going to get into mandatory. Usyk's going to get into his mandatories being called, and legally he's going to have to. There will be a problem for the various organisations. So we've got to get it on. To get it on, we can't put it on in the UK. Everybody said, right, why don't go down to Cardiff? Cardiff just isn't big enough, and we can't generate the income down there that you can generate at Wembley, which is the natural home for it. So we've got to look at abroad, and if you look abroad, look at the the places that would work. Is obviously there's the Middle East. There's a couple other places as well that we've sort of had some loose conversations with, but it won't. I don't see it taking place in this country because the financial expectations of both fighters means that we've got to take it to somewhere who wants to host the Blue Ribbon event, the heavyweight unification fight between two undefeated fighters, who some people say one is the best pound for pound fighter and the other one is obviously the best heavyweight of his generation. I don't know how that works out. That's not me saying that. That's how some publications call it. But look, they're both undefeated. We know it's going to be a great fight, and get those 4 belts on the line is something special. It's it's boxing's World Cup final. So we are in discussions, and we're talking to various people, and I hope we can get it over the line. The two fellas have no problem as regards fighting each other because they both, you heard after the fight, Usyk said that's the only fight he's interested in with Tyson, and Tyson is exactly the same.
Talking of the World Cup final, does that showpiece event for football taking place in Qatar make it, and it being in December, make it even more likely that Usyk or Fury Usyk ends up in the Middle East?
Well, not really. The World Cup makes it more difficult because you can't be going up against football matches, big football matches on pay-per-view the same evening. So it is a bit difficult. So we've got to find a window to get this on, or after the World Cup, or after the World Cup. But we've got to sort it out. But the most important thing to make this work is to get the finances sorted out.
Will Tyson Fury, because he's announced his retirement a few times now, will he only come back to the ring for Usyk, or will he just come back generally, and if Usyk's not made, he will fight someone else?
Look, he wants that fight. Everyone wants to see it, and that's all we're focused on. We're not even looking at anything else. That's the one we're all trying to make. As I say, both boxers want it, so it's not a problem. And for us, the only issue is finances. That's really it.
But if it doesn't come off, do you think he would, in inverted commas, stay retired?
I don't know. It's he was going to fight a couple of weeks ago. He wanted to fight a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know. But he's a fighting man. I think with Tyson, he gets in that gymnasium, he works hard, he runs, and there's got to be an end product of what he's doing. And the end product is obviously getting into the ring and fighting. I think he's a fighting man. I hope that we get this fight done. I believe we can do it. And I just hope that it's done to everybody's satisfaction, so then we can get it up and running.
Now, the WBC have issued a Friday deadline, Friday this week, for Tyson to let them know in writing, or Tyson's team to let them know in writing, whether he intends to come back or to relinquish the belt. I guess they've seen he's relinquished the Ring Magazine belt, and they want to know if theirs is going to be next. Will he or his team or you write to them to assure them he plans to carry on?
I've already had the letter.
And what does it say?
It says he's carrying on.
Good stuff. That's that cleared up then. Just switching away from Fury and Usyk for a second. I sent you something this morning. This is not the best way to start the sentence, I've just realised. Yeah, I sent you some images this morning from
images. Dan, what are you
of
doing to me?
of the Metro. Today's Metro sees the return of their boxing pullout. I think it's called. It's not called Fight Zone because that's the name of the TV channel, but something similar. And it's a paid partnership with DAZN. And this one's got KSI both on the front cover of the newspaper and as the main featured person on the pullout itself. What do you make of that? It's kind of being positioned as the face of boxing, I guess.
I'm not going to have a go at KSI. He's a good Arsenal man. What do I think of it? I think, look, these guys have found a niche in boxing to fight, and they make a lot of money from it. And, you know, if they can do it, good luck to them, God bless them, and that's it. Is it of a level of what I would say, you know, for the amount of publicity and the eyeballs it attracts, is it at that level? No, it's not. We all, you know, we're not stupid. We all understand what it is. Good luck to them, and I hope they do really well with it. But it is what it is. It's this YouTubers fighting each other. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's put in the same bracket in the pullout as kind of Ben Eubank. By the same bracket, I don't mean they're saying it's as good, but it's in the same pages as Eubank Ben and Shields Marshall, Joyce Parker. And it's not licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. So there is a distinction there that maybe the casual audience won't understand.
I agree that. I mean, we in the business know that, but obviously the casual audience wouldn't know. But they buy into it and they'll watch it. And they're not stupid. You know, people are not stupid. They watch things and they watch it and they understand, I think, at the end of the day where they are. It's a very young audience and they buy into it. And as I say, you know, he's done well, as has Jake Paul. They've done fantastic between them, what they do. I can't knock that. I mean, I can't knock it. I started off in what they called unlicensed boxing, and we put fights on, and we sold lots of tickets in doing so. I didn't know any difference then. I mean, I was a young kid, thought I knew it, but I didn't know it. And what they're doing, they're you know, making money from their notoriety on YouTube, and that's what they've chosen to do. When they get into a fight, excuse me, a fight what I would consider to be a, you know, or against an opponent, what I would consider to be someone who's actually, you know, a pro. I'm not talking about, you know, a champion, a pro, and fights them. Then you'll find out what the true level they're at. That's why I want to get that Tommy Fury fight on with Jake, who I really like, by the way. I think he's a very good promoter. So it is what it is. You know, you talk about all these fights all being, you know, bundled up and so forth. I mean, it's like the Ben and Eubank fight. I mean, being realistic about that, you've got a 33-year-old guy that they keep calling a prospect, who's not a prospect, who's not, you know, he's never done anything at the top level. You know, he's Billy Joe Saunders. Yeah, he's lost. He's top level. He's not done anything. So he's now fighting and there's this catch weight thing, which I don't particularly understand or like what I'm hearing about it. But listen, that's their business and the Border Control's job to ensure that you know, medically there's no problems with this. And the boxer's safety is paramount. And you got him against Nigel's son, who's done extremely well up to yet, but he hasn't fought anybody. They're not both in their weight divisions. Neither of them are the best in this country in their weight divisions. So it's been, if it hadn't been their surnames were Ben and Eubanks, would everybody be buying into it like they're buying into it? And I don't think they would. I can think of a couple of fighters who could do a similar fight, and it wouldn't get nowhere near the attention because of the names. But we know what it's about. It's about money. It's about capitalising on their family name, and I'm sure these two fellas are going to be training their balls off. I mean, they're not going to cut any corners. They'll come out. They are licensed fighters, but it is at the level it's at. To compare it to Joyce and Parker, Olympic silver medalist, undefeated. Former world champion who's fought over here a few times and beaten, you know, and ranked by all the organisations in very good in high positions. You can't compare the fights.
And just before we move on, you said there Ben's not even the best. Well, you said both aren't the best in their respective weight divisions in Britain. Is that because you believe Echo Esserman's better than Ben, or are you claiming Avanesian as British for this occasion?
I think either of them beat him. I really do. We've offered the fight. And I get it, I understand it. This is not personal. This is about us trying to make fights. I mean, we do try to make these fights. We do approach them and have made them good offers for the fights. They're not interested in it, and I get that. We've also made offers to Eubank, to Zach Parker. I mean, Zach Parker, in my opinion, will knock him out. He's made for Zach Parker. All that fiddling about and so forth, he will absolutely do a job on him.
You mentioned Jake Paul just there. We hope he'll be coming over for the Joyce Parker card. He's got Amanda Serrano on there in a big fight herself. Tommy Fury recently seemed keen to resurrect his fight with Jake Paul. So I have to ask, has his US issues been cleared up, or is the US not an option for that fight?
Nothing's been cleared at the moment because he's not been to the embassy. That's all went on the back burner. But when he gets into town, Jake, hope he gets into town, he's coming to Tommy's town. So I'm sure their paths will cross, and let's see how we can resurrect this and make it happen.
I mean, it'd be a lot easier for everyone, I guess, if it was in the UK, right?
Well, it would, but it's the expectation levels again of both the guys. It's always about the finances, what it's worth, and it's only worth what you can generate. And in America, it generates a lot of money. Does it generate a lot of money here? Here, I think it does, but somebody's got to take less money. If Tommy wants it here, if we can get it here, if we can agree terms, and these are all big ifs, Tommy'd have to take less money.
Now, we're going to end with a slightly left field topic. When Joyce Parker was made, you said that your son, George, was the point person on that, dealing with Boxer. When Umar asked you yesterday if you'd spoken to Team Usyk since the fight at the weekend, you said George had spoken to Alex Krasuk. Is George's role increasing at the moment?
No, we all work as a team here. He does extremely well. He's not worried about the limelight. He's not worried about putting his face up. And you know that better than anybody. And from my perspective, they just wheel me out. I'm the old geezer they wheel out every now and then, and we do the interviews. But no, he's very competent. He does. My three sons work here, and they've all got their various respective positions, and they all do extremely well.
Have you seen the HBO series Succession?
Yeah, Brian Cox. I like it. Yeah.
Do you see any similarities? Or?
No, not at all. No, we're close and we don't fall out of each other.
Glad to hear it. Frank, always a pleasure. And let's catch up again soon. Cheers. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.